Okay, the next story here is called Christ Lutheran Church in Odessa, Texas. The Church I Knew Inside Out, a Boyhood Story. This was the church that I was raised in. I attended this church since I was, I would say, at least 6 years old. I had a little trouble pinning down exactly what year I started, but I would say 6 years old for sure. And I did a little research on this church, found out it was built in 1956. So, so it's a fairly new church from when I started attending. So we started attending I would say like 1960, could have been a little bit earlier, but early 1960 for sure. And in 1962, this church decided to expand and built I guess what they call a parish hall. I think it more than doubled the size of the church from when it originally was built. And just so happens that my dad was in charge of taking care of the church and the church grounds. Kind of like a janitor, I guess. We did both the inside and the outside. So on Saturdays, I think every Saturday mornings, I do believe, at least, our chores would include cleaning the church. This includes sweeping. I remember this big old mop that we'd use to clean sweep the floors. Now, after you sweep the floors, we would mop the floors. So we had a mopping bucket. Remember pushing that mopping bucket around, cleaning the floors. And also include clean the bathrooms. This church had 4 bathrooms, 2 bathrooms in the original church and 2 bathrooms in the new part of the church that was just built. So we had 4 bathrooms to clean. And then you had to get all the pews in the main sanctuary, all the pews straightened up, all the hymnals, any papers that are hanging out. You pick all this stuff up, get everything nice and orderly. So that was just the inside. Then you had to do the outside, mow the yards, tend. I think it had some places there were plants planted in the yard, different stuff that we had to take care of. So front yard, backyard, the whole deal. So we had to mow also. And during that, the main pastor we had at that time, that was I guess my favorite pastor, was Pastor Richard A. Jones was his name. He came to be a pastor in July of 1961, and I was 9 years old at that time. So Pastor Jones was kind of like one of the main pastors that was there during my life. So Lutheran children typically take catechism when you're about 12 years old, and you're confirmed by your age 14. So Pastor Jones was the pastor that taught us. So we always took class. It was also on a Saturday. I think we spent at least 2 hours in that class, if not more. And there was one incident in one of these classes that Pastor Jones was talking about creation. And as he was talking about creation, he had come up and he said, God stepped up and said, and I spoke up at this point and I said, and smile, you're on candid camera. And of course everybody got a big laugh out of that one. I don't know if didn't sound like I was too kind of person to speak out anyway, but I definitely did in that case. So Candid Camera was a popular show back then. So I was confirmed April 3rd of 1966. I was 14 years old at that time. There was probably 7 or 8 of us. I can't remember for sure at this point. But these were the people, we're all the same age, so we pretty much, I knew all these people pretty well. But there was one incident that happened one night. I was in the church's kitchen, and I opened up the freezer, and I saw that someone had put a Coke, it was a glass bottle of Coke, and that glass bottle of Coke had frozen and it burst, and it just a big mess of Coke and ice. I mean, just, it of course had glass in it. Well, I decided I'm gonna get rid of that, so I grabbed this ball of ice and Coke and all that stuff. I had it in my right hand. And I went out to the back door, and as an idiot, I threw it away. What was bad was that ice slashed through my finger, and slashed right through there, and made a pretty bad cut there. So I didn't tell anybody I did that. Of course, it's all a bloody mess, right? Eventually, someone at the church saw that, notified my parents, and then the secret was over. So I had to go to the emergency room and end up getting 9 stitches in that finger. And that scar is very prominent today, even to this day. And kind of stuck with me pretty much. So after that, there's when you go to catechism, they have a church camp, and I took a trip to Camp Chrysalis, and that's in Kerrville, and I think I did that around, from what I could research, is around August of 1963, I think. As part of our teaching, of course, during the confirmation. And I did search the newspaper.com, and I found an article that Pastor Jones returning from a trip from this camp. I remember a little bit about this trip. I remember a particular girl that was in our group. I think her name was Sherry. And she was in my confirmation class. Looking at pictures of the camp, I do remember it. There's a cross on top of a hill. I remember there's a trail that goes up the hill that leads up to that cross. And I do remember being on that trail. Also, there's a river that runs through the camp, and it looks to be a pretty large camp. Now, this Pastor Jones, he left Christ Lutheran in October of 1966. But unfortunately, he and his wife died in an auto crash in December of '66. So not even 2 months after he was gone, he had died. Well, after that, we got a new pastor, Pastor Boyd. He came in October '66. He had 3 kids, 2 girls and one was a boy. Now, all the girls' names were bird names, like Robin, Raven, and the boys' names were named after prophets, and his name was Micah. Now, during these years, I had learned to play chess. I think mainly I probably played my cousin Ronnie a lot, pretty sure. So I remember playing chess quite a bit, so I guess I felt like I was pretty good. Well, I got into a chess game with this Robin girl, pastor's daughter. And lo and behold, she beat me. I was actually shocked by that. I couldn't believe it. A girl beat me. That was quite a blow. That's quite a blow to me. Somehow that really affected me. I just didn't think it could happen or something. I don't know. At some point during this Christ Lutheran, I had a friend named Jerry Bagwell, and he wanted to be a preacher. And he would sometimes preach at Christ Lutheran, so they were trying to give him job experience, right? Now, I liked to sit in the back row whenever he did this. When the service was just about over, he would come down from the altar and he'd stand before the congregation and he'd say the blessing. Since I was in the back row, I would raise both my arms up. I think I've probably made a peace sign. Not 100% sure of this. And I do this to get his attention, so I'm waving my arms in the back. And he would see me, but he couldn't say anything because I put him on the spot that he couldn't say anything without affecting his blessing there at the end. And of course, our church had vacation Bible schools. And when I got older, instead of participating in the Bible studies, I was one of the workers in the Bible study. And one of them I remember, you know, those little red balls, like a kickball. We had this red rubber ball. And I think we played kickball, kind of like you do baseball. Instead of a ball and bat, you would roll the ball to the batter and the batter would kick it, and so it's just like baseball. I guess they call it kickball, right? So I remember doing that. Then in April of 1970, we got a new pastor, and it was Pastor Dornquist. Now, I've been going to this church for, 10 years plus probably, I'm sure, by this time. And it's kind of getting closer to the end of where I'll be attending this church. Now, this pastor, I didn't get along with him as well. He wasn't as, likable as all the other pastors were. And he was the pastor that the previous story about the young newspaper that our Sunday school young class did. He was the pastor involved in that mess. So it led to that. So pretty much from when I was real young, I attended this church every Sunday, Every Saturday I was cleaning this church, mowing the yard, mopping, sweeping. I just knew this church inside and out, every closet, every bathroom, you name it. I cleaned it, knew it inside and out. It was just part of my life growing up, being raised in a Lutheran church. There's another story that me and my friend Jerry, was the pastor lived in a house right next to the church. There was one time, I think when the pastor and the family were gone on maybe vacation or something, me and Jerry somehow gained entry into the house. Now, we're not intending to steal anything or do anything like that. We just, I don't know, kids. Anyway, we gained entry and we kind of spent some time in the den in there. And we played, I remember playing cards, some French game. I have yet to figure out what French game it was. I can't remember, but I just know it's a French card game. And I remember playing cards in that den. And I don't know. I don't think we got in trouble for it or nobody knew. Not that I don't remember. But I remember doing that once. So I don't know. Kids will be kids, all I know. Anyway, that's the story of this church and my being raised in this church.